Life is often full of major disappointments. Maybe nobody showed up to your birthday party. Maybe you got turned down by your crush. Maybe your name is Retro Nemo and you're a living disappointment. Things don't always go right, and sometimes they crash and burn in the worst way possible. When expectations are the highest, that's usually when you can be hurt the most. And cartoons are no exception. Welcome back to the Roundtable, I'm Nemo, and today we're going to be counting down the top 10 biggest disappointing moments in cartoons. This list is going to be all about those moments that you were excited for and hyped up for, and when it came down to it, they dropped the ball. Whether it's a finale that was hyped up or something that could have been great and just wasn't, we're venting out all our frustrations on this list, so guys, sit down, relax, and prepare to be disappointed.
Rick, that's dark.
Oh, it gets darker, Morty. Welcome to the darkest year of our adventures.
Rick and Morty is a show that consistently raises hype and satisfies it. It does an incredible job of fulfilling its promises, whether it's carrying through with Season 2's great finale into the incredible Season 3 premiere that was not only satisfying but just an epic unto itself, or finding a way to bring back a long discontinued McDonald's sauce and almost destroying the world in the process. Regardless, Rick and Morty is a show that always typically delivers. Unfortunately, for the case of the Season 3 finale, it didn't. Despite only having 3 seasons under its belt and a 4th on the way, Rick and Morty does a good job of building up to things. The build up at the end of the Season 1 finale was all about Rick's relationship with his grandchildren that was kind of carrying over throughout the whole season. Season 2's cliffhanger dealt with Rick's past, his actions, and the growing tensions within the family. And in Season 3, they built up to nothing. This was easily Rick and Morty's biggest season. It had the most eyes on it, and with some of the heaviest episodes in the entire series, we were expecting this finale to live up to that sort of tone that they were setting. I mean, the season premiere literally opened with Rick becoming essentially God, Jerry getting divorced. Then we have an entire season that discusses their relationship as a family and all these things that are changing, and it all ends on an episode that more or less feels just like a regular episode of Rick and Morty. The episode, titled The Rick, Cherry, and Morty Date, centers on Rick's relationship with the President of the United States and just the United States in general, which is a very interesting topic. I mean, you kind of always wondered, oh, how does Rick get away with everything? Doesn't the government ever come? We've even seen him interact with the President in the past, and they have a very good relationship, but tensions were kind of high here. Now, as a standalone Rick and Morty episode, this was incredible. There were some great action scenes, all of the jokes landed. It was a sort of thought experiment episode, like what would happen if Rick actually feuded with the government, who would win. In fact, I don't have anything bad to say about this episode despite the fact that it's the finale. So how did this average episode become the bookend for what was the heaviest season of the show yet? Well, the answer lies in one number, 14. It is well-known information at this point that they were going for 14 episodes of Rick and Morty for Season 3. They were aiming a little bit higher, they thought they could get it done, and in the end, they couldn't and were forced to revert back to 10 episodes, which completely screwed over the season in terms of pacing and storytelling and just the arcs and everything they were building up to, because suddenly they had 4 less episodes to do everything, which led to this episode feeling extremely rushed. The B-plot of this episode just tried to accomplish too much with the family drama that was going on. Beth questioning whether or not she was a clone, which carries over from the ABCs of Beth, which leads to her getting back with Jerry, which feels very undeserved and honestly comes out of nowhere. The season very much established that they were apart and they were trying to be different people, and though it wasn't really working, it was pretty much set in stone, I thought. So with her to just randomly go back to Jerry, I could tell that they were just trying to rush it because it was the finale to close off that storyline for the season. It was already a very controversial storyline. A lot of people thought it's what ruined Season 3, but I won't get into that because I don't like conflict. Them getting back together leads to the entire family trying to escape Rick, saying they don't want to be with him anymore, and they were sick of him. But again, this came at a very weird point. Morty was just chilling with Rick playing Minecraft this entire episode. They seemed like they were doing better than ever, and suddenly Morty just did a 180 and decided he didn't want to see Rick at all. It felt like they had skipped ahead too far without explaining any of this or showing enough to justify it. And again, the fact that it all happened on the finale really pushed the fact that it just seemed rushed. It all boiled down to the final scene of the season, which is them just eating Panda Express, and that's it. I mean, compare that to Season 2's finale. Rick is in prison, there's this cliffhanger, what is happening? The world becomes like integrated into the galaxy government. It's just a huge change. But here, Season 3, which episode-wise, again, was like the most plot-heavy, ends with them eating Panda Express. It's just disappointing. I remember being very upset with this when this premiered and I was watching it live, and going back, I don't hate it as much as I did. In fact, it's one of my favorite episodes of the show, just as a standalone. If somebody wanted to know what Rick and Morty was like, I would definitely show them this episode, spoilers aside. But unfortunately, this finale was just a whimper instead of the show ending on the bang that it should have. With new episodes on the horizon coming out this fall, it doesn't hurt as bad as it used to. But overall, this finale was just very underwhelming.
Ryan, look out!
I don't even know where to start with this one. When I think of Family Guy, I don't ever think of tear-jerking moments or any sort of emotion other than kind of quietly laughing and sometimes feeling uncomfortable. So that's why it was very weird and unfitting when they tried to go for the very serious route of killing off a major beloved character. That's right, a few seasons ago, Family Guy tried to take a major leap and kill off their dog Brian for no reason. Let me just take it from the top. So the episode The Life of Brian is like unanimously thought of as one of the worst in the show. Stewie has a time machine, so if a character ever died, you could say, oh, why doesn't Stewie use his time machine? The writers are very smart, so when they were gonna kill off Brian, they made sure they devoted a majority of the episode to destroying the time machine. It's literally the laziest thing ever. After another risky time adventure, Stewie decides to just completely destroy the machine. Hopefully nothing bad happens after this, ha ha ha, cause you know, it's gone forever. They literally throw it out at a trash dump, and then quite literally walk over to the plot for the rest of the episode. Because a second after they destroy it, Brian just finds a hockey net, and he's like, what if we played hockey? Ha ha ha! This can't possibly go wrong. And then it does, in the most brutal way possible, when he just randomly gets hit by a car. The second they destroyed the time machine, he dies. It's like, this is so dumb. It then cuts to Family Guy trying its best to make you care at all, but the entire scene where they're looking over Brian's body just feels so awkward, and they just keep mixing it in with jokes so that you never really know what the tone is. It's like they're just dipping their toes and trying to do a serious plot, and they are failing miserably. The whole thing just comes off as awkward. So Brian's dead, I guess, and then he stays dead for an episode or two. They replace him with a whole other dog who's in the mafia. Why is he in the mafia? The entire stunt just reeked of them running out of ideas and trying to do anything else to keep it interesting. And I do say stunt purposefully. This was a stunt. Seth MacFarlane said himself that they were just trying to keep the audience on their toes. Whatever that means, I don't know. I don't think anybody's sticking to Family Guy every week to see like some new exciting story. Maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. I mean, who could watch this and not cry?
I'm afraid that our Brian is dead.
It's so sad. The whole new dog Vinny thing is just really stupid. Feels so unnecessary. It's like, where did this come from? Why are they doing this? But that's not the disappointment. That's not why it's on this list. If they had the balls to just kill off Brian point blank, leave him dead, change the show forever like that, and just add a new dog and just have the series be like that, I would commend them. For doing something so dumb and unnecessary and sticking to it takes major guts. Instead, they drop the ball by just undoing it. Like literally 2 episodes later. We get an awkward episode in between the two where Quagmire and Peter start a band. It's just so weirdly slipped in there. But the fact that they cut to that really makes it feel like, oh shoot, this was a permanent decision. Like they're just going back to stupid episodes. I guess Brian really is dead. Vinny's here to stay. But then the next episode, Brian comes back and they undo it. So the whole thing just was pointless, I guess. I commend them in how they did it. I mean, earlier there was like a cutaway joke that Stewie used time travel to get Christmas presents. And then like that cutaway joke, Stewie is actually the one they get the time machine from to save Brian. I thought that was kind of smart because you didn't really see it coming, but you shouldn't have seen it coming. They shouldn't have done this. Why did they do this? Why did they do this? Why did they kill off Brian for 2 episodes just to bring him back in the lamest way? I mean, yes, I know it was probably just to boost ratings. I just want to believe so badly that there's a deeper meaning here, Seth. Tell me the deeper meaning. Why did you introduce Vinny? Why did you make this mafia dog a part of the show for 2 episodes just to completely undo it? In the middle of the season. Why? But either way, I think this really classifies it as a disappointment. I guess to anybody who watched this and was actually excited that the show was shaking things up, I can imagine they would be disappointed. And I think a lot of Family Guy fans overall were just disappointed that their favorite show did something so dumb. But at least it made like the best meme ever, so we got something good out of it.
Things changed, Beast Boy. The girl you want me to be is just a memory.
So if you watch any top 10 of this channel, I've actually mentioned this finale a lot because it falls into a lot of different categories, but it is definitely a disappointment. If you don't know the story, Teen Titans thought it was ending the season before. So they had this 3-part finale. They literally called it the end. It had to do with Raven's dad and the apocalypse, and it was incredible. It was a great bookend of the series. We could have gotten more episodes, but it felt like a good place to stop. But then it didn't stop, and they got renewed. So they're just like, okay, I guess we'll make a whole other season. They weren't thinking about endings at this point. They already had their big finale, so they just ended on an average episode about Beast Boy finding Terra again, and they weren't concerned at all about making that the big ending to the series. If anything, it was just a sort of season finale thing. But then the show actually ended for real, it got canceled, and so we were left with this episode as the ending to the beloved series. And it's actually like the ultimate cliffhanger. We don't know why Terra doesn't have her memories, we don't know what's going on with that, why is she in school, why doesn't she remember the Titans, why wouldn't she want to be a Titan, does she still have superpowers, who would rather be taking a geometry test than hanging out with the Teen Titans? But we never get answers to that. Instead we get Beast Boy like weirdly running off into light. Maybe this was supposed to be the big ending. Teen Titans Go has been teasing for a while that we're gonna get the original Titans back. I don't know if that's true or if they were just using it to get people to watch their stupid movie, but hopefully we get something new with the original Titans so that this doesn't live down as the ending to the series, because overall it just left fans a little disappointed.
Yo, I didn't even say anything.
Bloodstone, we need to talk.
Okay, this episode is actually really funny. The disappointment part comes from the advertising. So the episode Rocknaldo is just an average towny episode of Steven Universe. Steven sees Ronaldo is handing out these sort of propaganda pamphlets about the evil rock people, and then Steven's like, but I'm a rock person, and Ronaldo's like, oh, this is awkward. It actually ends up with him wanting to join the Crystal Gems, so he moves in with them, but it does not work out at all because Ronaldo is a horrible human being. He quickly makes everything about himself, getting upset when he's not invited on missions, and jealous of Connie's sword. It ends with Ronaldo telling Steven that he's not a crystal gem, which, dude, if I was Steven, I would have clocked him right then and there. I would have put that boy in a body bag, I'm not even kidding. But Steven's a pacifist, so he goes and thinks for a second, and then he comes back and uses his words to tell Ronaldo that he was not making him feel good. Ronaldo actually learns his lesson and leaves the crystal gems, and decides that he's going to be an outsider forever, but he's happy with it, so it's kind of okay. It ends with him realizing his mistakes and making a new pamphlet about the crystal gems, trying to raise awareness. It's a good episode, so why am I putting it on the disappointment list? Well, the blame lies on Cartoon Network's marketing. Steven Universe has a passionate online fan base. Some losers study every frame of this show. I couldn't be bothered to do that. I think that's really lame. So when this episode came out and the network teased that there would be a brand new gem in the episode, people were hyped. A brand new gem, I mean, that's a big deal for the show. Some of the best characters were new gems they added and teased at. So when they promised a new gem in this episode, people were extremely excited. And that new gem ended up being Ronaldo. Now look, are they lying technically? No, they weren't lying. He even had a cool gem named Bloodstone. What they did wasn't really evil, it was just kind of like a jerk move. Tons of people tuned into this episode expecting to see a new crystal gem and a brand new addition to the team, and they were met with this sort of average towny episode. In retrospect, it's kind of funny, but this episode goes down infamously as one of the most disappointing in the show, which just goes to show how powerful marketing really is. Also, Ronaldo just sucks. I hate him.
Do not get into this racket. JN. Jimmy Neutron! Someone named JN is putting all these notes in your lab!
Boy oh boy, was Jimmy Neutron an animated classic. It's one of my favorite cartoons from that era, and just in general, and it has that nice juicy nostalgia factor, so everyone remembers it, and memes of it are just extra funny. So when I found out they were making a sequel, spiritual successor spin-off series all about Sheen, I was beyond excited. I was met with extreme disappointment. Planet Sheen is a mess of a TV show that only lasted a couple of seasons and was critically panned. That's like the skinny of it. I think Planet Sheen's biggest problem is that it's just such a fundamentally different show. The plot about Sheen being marooned on an alien planet in an alien world, trying to get back home and also making a new life on that planet, has zero ties to Jimmy Neutron besides Sheen and a Carl-like character. Sure, it has the same creators, but the entire show feels like it could have been just its own show. And they plugged in Sheen so that people would watch it, so that it would have some name recognition. I mean, what the heck is this? These aliens look weird, man. They look weird. It's ugly, and it was annoying. I mean, just the theme song alone made me wanted to punch a hole in drywall, even as a child.
Noodle casserole.
Papa Ratatouille!
Stranded on a planet.
What you gonna do?
It had Carl, but not quite, so like, why even bother? Why couldn't they just have Carl come with Sheen? Again, the theme song is unforgivable. And look, I'm not trying to be too critical of something that was obviously aimed at a children's audience, because I watched this as a child, and I still hated it. All of my opinions now were the opinions I had back when it came out. I hated it so much. I hated whenever it came on TV. I just felt so disappointed because Jimmy Neutron was so good, and they had so much potential. They could have done something with it, but they didn't. I don't know how they dropped the ball this hard. Maybe it's because it was too weird of a concept. Maybe it's because it had different writers who were arguably worse. But either way, Planet Sheen will go down as a universally hated cartoon, and I hope it perishes. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, ahoy there! I be Patsy the Pirate, and I'm welcoming you to the best day ever!
SpongeBob The Best Day Ever was just an average 11-minute episode of SpongeBob, but there was so much hype built up around it. There was a all-day SpongeBob marathon with episodes hand-chosen by fans, real-life events hyping up this special, TV spot after TV spot, to the point when I was writing this list, all I really remembered was the hype, and I could barely remember what the episode was about. So when I watched it, I was like, what? The entire episode was based around the song It's the Best Day Ever, which I guess was on the movie soundtrack. It was co-written by Tom Kenny. It's a slapper for sure. I'm pretty sure they meant this to go in the SpongeBob movie and ended up getting pushed back to 2006 and just came out as this quote-unquote special. But it's just an average episode about SpongeBob having a fun day planned, but facing disappointment in every situation, and ending with him having a big musical number and realizing the day wasn't so bad after all. That's it. It literally was 11 minutes long. I will never be able to fathom why there was so much hype built up around this one episode, why it was treated like such an event, why they made an original song for it, why they had a marathon. Because guys, it was just an episode of SpongeBob. Was it cause it was the 80th? Why couldn't they hold off till the 100th for this? I don't even think they did anything for the 100th as big as they did for this. The Best Day Ever is a disappointment because it was doomed to fail from the start. I can't imagine anything that would have lived up to the amount of hype that they built for this episode. So that's why it'll always go down as a disappointment. Just an average episode of the show. But at least it wasn't as bad as that second movie. Ayo, just kidding. I didn't hate it that much. I'm sure a lot of people like it. I'm just trying to appeal to a wider audience by making fun of something. I hope you guys don't mind and notice that I'm actually really insecure deep down, but you know. Code Lyoko was the coolest thing ever. There was a supercomputer. They went to boarding school. They literally like scootered through tunnels to become CGI, and it was a French anime. I don't even know how to classify that. I watched every episode of the show. I was obsessed with the characters. I almost bought the Halloween costumes. Thank God I didn't, because they looked terrifying. And it had its course as a great series that had a beginning, a middle, and a satisfying ending. The show was huge, so it makes sense that they eventually wanted to reboot it, and boy oh boy did they, and boy oh boy did it suck. Titled Code Lyoko Evolution, this was a fusion animated live action series, so you know it was doomed to fail from the start. The entire show was just lame. Code Lyoko had so much heart and character. I mean, despite being kind of repetitive and formulaic, you loved these characters and you wanted to see what happened. You cared about them. Cut to this. What is this? Who are these kids? Aelita looks like she's from goddamn Lazy Town, and I can't get over how much Odd just doesn't look like Odd. The entire show just looks so bland. It was this weird blend of live action and 3D that kind of looked cool, but more or less gave off a Spy Kids vibe than anything else. The entire thing just came off as a lifeless cash grab. Plus, it's harder to dub in live action than it is in a cartoon. When I watched Code Lyoko as a kid, I had no idea it wasn't American. I didn't question it. But when it's live action, you just can't fake that stuff. It just looks bad. You just kind of have to watch with subtitles and realize how confusing the French language is to you. The entire series picked up like a year after the other one left off, so I guess it was a continuation, which made even less sense. Like, why didn't they just reboot this in general? If they were gonna make this giant change and make the entire show live action, why didn't they just remake the series? Why did they have to try to continue it? Because now it falls in line with the lore of the show, but then there's this weird awkward point where it becomes live action. It only lasted like a year. I wouldn't say Code Lyoko Evolution is laughably bad. It's just awkward and kind of lifeless. Half the time I forget this even happened, but it was definitely a disappointment.
I'm finally ready to make a deal.
Gravity Falls was a truly special show, and the reason why it was so good is because there were so many clues and secrets throughout the entire show hidden for fans to find and decode. It made watching the show a fun experience as opposed to just a viewing experience. I had never seen anything else like it, and I enjoyed decoding everything at the end of the episodes. And one of the first big mysteries in the show was the Bill Cipher wheel at the end of the theme song that briefly flashed. It was so cool. You wondered if they meant for you to see it, and you felt like you were in this club for even knowing about it. It's safe to say it was probably the most theorized aspect of the show. So when it came down to the big finale and Gravity Falls finally ended, and the Cipher Wheel did come into play after all this time, it kind of felt disappointing. They did it justice. They explained that it was a prophecy, and what people were theorizing about every symbol meaning a character totally fit together, and it lived up to the hype. It was supposed to be the way they took down Bill. But then when it came down to the execution, the wheel never got used. This, of course, is because of Stan and Ford's bickering that caused the wheel to break, and just everyone else turned into tarps. It was really dark. And look, the show definitely had a satisfying finale. I'm not saying saying it was disappointing at all. But this wheel was built up for so long, we were waiting forever just to see it be used, and then it wasn't. I think that's pretty disappointing, especially because of how big of a thing this wheel turned into. It became like a staple of the show, a literal iconic part of this series, and we never really got to see what it did. Now look, Alex Hirsch said that they always planned to use this wheel, but they didn't really know exactly how it was going to be used or how they were going to execute it. I don't even think they truly knew what symbols were going to each character when they put it in the first season of the show. You like to think that a show like Gravity Falls would have a lot planned out, but in reality, they didn't have that much planned out, which is what led to this whole Cypher wheel feeling kind of forced in and then underutilized in the end. I'm not trying to be picky here. I mean, it's great that they addressed it and we got an explanation for it, but I can't help but feel like they sort of forgot about it when they were writing Weird Mageddon. They're like, oh, we should include that wheel we've been teasing this whole time. Because again, it didn't do anything. It just kind of showed up for a second. Like, I was ready for this wheel to be the Deus Ex Machina, the thing that took down Bill. Like, yes, that makes so much sense. They were hyping it up this whole time, and we'll finally see it get used, and it would be such a satisfying payoff. But instead, it was left a little disappointing. At least we got to see the Mystery Shack as a giant fighting robot. That was cool.
Of course it is, sweetheart. You wouldn't let your daddy get hurt by that bad old samurai.
Samurai Jack unfortunately ended without an ending originally. It was canceled before they really got a conclusion to the series, so fans were justifiably hyped when it was announced they were going to be making a new season of Samurai Jack on Adult Swim to finish out the season. It was allowed to be as dark as Gandhi wanted to, and we were finally going to get an ending to one of the most beloved animated shows of all time. And unfortunately, they dropped the ball here. I could try to explain it, but I don't think I could do the justice that Ostrich Vox could. This series finale really bothered him. So if you want to know how disappointing this finale was, I'll let him explain.
Allow me to get one thing straight. Samurai Jack, or at least the first 4 seasons, is one of the greatest animated series of all time. It was ambitious. There was nothing like it on television, and there's still nothing like it on television today. This series was the embodiment of show, not tell. Keep that in mind. When fans learned we would be getting a 5th and final season on Adult Swim with a higher rating that would properly wrap up the story, everyone was stoked. How could you not be excited by this? For a while, it was glorious. Those first 3 or 4 episodes of the season, absolutely marvelous. And then they decided to have a romance subplot. This already didn't make too much sense, as they established Jack was canonically like in his 70s, 80s, and Ashi had to be at like 18 at least, and they were already kind of putting it up for Jack and Ashi to have more of a mentor-student relationship, not a romantic relationship. You know why? Because Jack was teaching Ashi about the outside world. She was never teaching Jack anything. It was a very one-sided relationship that helped Ashi to grow. Beyond that, what I find more important is the episode where Ashi tries to find Jack before he offs himself. Not only were the stakes incredibly high, but the true purpose of this episode was for Ashi to see how many people were saved by Jack, how he changed their lives for the better. Characters we haven't seen in literal years, that Jack hasn't seen in literal years. So this episode, in conjunction with the fact that Jack has stated before that Aku has destroyed every single portal to the past, you may be under the impression, oh, okay, they're building it up for Jack to stay in the future, as he already has a life here, and quite literally has lived more of his life in the future than he has in the past. But no, in this half-hour finale, yes, it just has the length of a normal episode. While they do get points for having all of Jack's allies come for one final battle to rescue Jack, everything is incredibly rushed. And to add insult to injury, there's no big climactic showdown with Jack and Aku. In the previous episode, everyone realizes that Ashi is the literal daughter of Aku, and Aku takes control of her. Here, Jack snaps Ashi out of Aku's control with the power of love. But instead of visually conveying this, Jack literally screams, "Ashi, I love you," and that snaps her out of it. Shortly after, they learn Ashi has Aku's powers, to which Jack quite literally says, "Ashi, you have Aku's powers," to which she affirms with, "I do." You know, instead of something Samurai Jack would have done with Ashi kind of combating Aku and using his powers, no, he just flat out says it, to which Ashi conjures up a portal to the past. I don't think it was ever established that she knew Aku sent Jack to the future, together with a portal. So how does she already know she has the ability to do such a thing? The future Aku, the Aku we spent this entire series with since the second episode, doesn't have a triumphant conclusion to his character. No, it's played off like a gag. From there, Jack returns to the past at the exact moment he was sent from the future, which I thought was a really great moment, and he absolutely stomps Aku, which I think is reasonable as Aku was already weakened when he first sent Jack into the future. So although this entire scene of Jack destroying Aku was well done, it's completely undermined by the fact that it feels unearned. That Aku, one of the greatest villains in animation, went out on a whimper. But this isn't even the worst part. Oh no. The worst part? The absolute slap in the face? After Aku is wiped from existence, Ashi falls over and remarks, "I think I felt him leave me." We fast forward to Jack and Ashi getting married, and at the very last second, Ashi falls over again and says, "Without Aku, I would have never existed." You know why they did this? Because it's a reference to the final episode of Gurren Lagann, where a similar thing happens to Simon's wife. But wait, you know what they didn't do in Gurren Lagann? They didn't straight up tell you what was happening. Again, instead of showing and not telling, Ashi straight up says, "Without Aku, I would have never existed." And she fades away, and yeah, Jack is kinda sad, but not really. He's just like, oh damn, okay, I guess this is happening. What? This entire finale turns against everything this show has stood for. What made the show so beautiful. It has good moments, I'm not going to deny that. But for an actual finale for such an amazing show, oh my god, they the bed. I really can't believe that Gendy Travakowski made this. It is the most un-Gendy thing that he has ever done. And while I'm sure his future works would be great, like, I'm very excited for Primal, this was absolutely just a big no-no. Anyways, I think I ranted long enough. Ultra Fox out.
Tennyson, stop him! He's getting away!
Ben?
Guys, when Ben 10 Alien Force came back, there was a whole new roster of aliens. 10 more for Ben to choose from. And out of those cool aliens, one stuck out. One mysterious alien that only showed up as a silhouette in the theme song. Alien X. What was Alien X? What could he do? Who was he? Why was Ben not using him? Why isn't he showing up in the series? These were questions we were asking for a long time. And when it finally came down to reveal Alien X and who he was, they made sure to hype it up with promos, commercials, and I was just sitting there so excited to see what it was. And boy oh boy, did they the bet on this one. Alien X is Ben's most powerful alien who doesn't move. Let me backtrack a little bit. So the episode that he was revealed in wasn't even that exciting. He just needed to fix a dam from breaking. And as for why he hadn't used Alien X in the past, well, according to Ben, he just didn't feel like it. Because when he got to Alien X in the watch, he's like, I never tried this one. Maybe I should try him. What? You just never tried that one? Why not? Like, what were you waiting for? It's so unsatisfying. So he finally gets Alien X, and then he goes God mode and fixes the whole dam, like reverses time and all that. And you're like, whoa, like this is the alien. This guy's the best. And just when you think Ben's unlocked God, he just stops moving and doesn't move for the rest of the episode. The rest of the episode. That's because Alien X is a celestial sapient, born from the forge of creation. So he's God, basically. He comes from like God places. He could do anything. So in the same sense, he can do nothing. Inside Alien X, there's two other entities besides Ben. One is Serena, the voice of love and compassion. The other is Verkest, the voice of rage and aggression. And then Ben is the voice of reason. They're constantly arguing and trying to figure out what Alien X should do. And if they can agree majority rules, then Alien X will do that thing, but they can never agree on anything. So Alien X doesn't do anything. It was super sad to see because I was excited for Alien X to be the coolest alien, and he kind of is the coolest alien. And then when we finally saw him, he was still a silhouette. He was just black with stars. It was the lamest thing ever. And I genuinely think he's a really cool concept as an alien, but the amount of hype that Alien X had, and considering how excited I was to just see him, when he came out and was basically still a silhouette that did nothing, I was big upset. He's made a few other appearances in the series. Later it's revealed that they have to have keys to unlock him, because I guess they don't want to accidentally use him. I don't know. It's kind of hokey. Towards the end of Ultimate Alien, it's implied that one day Ben will unlock Alien X and gain the powers of him and basically be God. That's cool, but we never get to see that happen, because then they did like a reboot of the series right after, and Ben 10 hasn't been the same since. He actually showed up in Omniverse and recreated the universe. So yeah, Alien X can essentially do anything, but Ben just can't use him. It's great. And that's why I think he deserves the spot for the biggest cartoon disappointment. Well, that's all the disappointing we're doing today, you guys. But as always, I want to know what you think. Do you agree with this list? Do you not? Let us know in those comments down below. Or tweet to me at RetroNemo or the channel at Roundtable Vids. If you want to consider helping out the Roundtable, you could become a member of the channel or consider supporting us on Patreon and get exclusive access to scripts and avatars. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to the Roundtable to stay in the loop with all things animation, guys. I'm Nemo, this is a Cartoon Top 10, and I'll see you next time. Peace.